For a long time, Sombra has been one of the most hated heroes in all of Overwatch. With both hack that could disable other people's abilities and stealth that could make her invisible, she was both hard to counter and frustrating to deal with. Ultimately, in Overwatch 2, she was seen as too unhealthy for the game and Blizzard decided to completely rework her. But upon reading the patch notes, neither hack nor invisibility has been removed. Is this actually just another failure rework on the part of Blizzard, or is this a major step in the right direction? I needed to get to the bottom of it, so to find out, I queued up in High Grandmaster on my slightly decayed GM1 ult account for 10 games to see exactly how these changes affected her. Is she overpowered or unplayable? Is she better designed or more of the same? Now, the first thing that I did was go into training to get a practical feel for the hero, and I quickly understood many of the changes that were implemented and how they were fundamentally different from how Sombra used to be. First off, Translocator was no longer set and real. It was a versatile engagement or disengagement tool with a low cooldown, and I theory crafted that you could use it to take one high ground to the next, or maybe teleport around the fight multiple times. It's pretty funny to me because I actually suggested a change almost identical to this many months ago. Also, now her invisible was connected to both her teleport and getting out of combat for 2 seconds, which gives Sombra the same perma-invisible perfect setups, but she doesn't get to run away like she did before, nor could she get value simply by hacking over and over again while staying invisible. Now, the only ability I really couldn't get my head around that much was Virus, a projectile skill shot that would do 100 damage over 4 seconds or 100 damage over 2 seconds if the target was hacked. I didn't really understood how this fit into her kit properly at the time, but I figured I would once I started using it in game. Now, the only other thing that I had to do was make sure to disable Translocator lock. A dev was talking about this on Twitter, and it allows you to freely look after you teleport and not get locked straight forward. If you're gonna main new rework Sombra, you have to disable this, so definitely do that before you grind some games. Now we jump right into game 1 on Route 66. Note that I already have very limited time playing Sombra compared to my overall hours, but even with that, I was still used to the Sombra keybinds and cycles of previous Sombra, and I quickly found a problem that was going to be a common theme for the next 5-ish games. How could this Hanzo possibly predict me if I can't even predict what I'm going to do myself? Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. The next thing I realized was how hard the virus was to hit. Now, it was actually a pretty forgiving projectile, but swapping between tracking and a projectile skill shot was fairly difficult. But even in spite of that, it was actually really stimulating on the hero, and overall, I liked it even though I was missing all my viruses. Now, after the next few engagements, I quickly realized 3 major things. If you can't hit your virus, you're just not gonna kill anybody at all. Teleporting up vertically was very, very powerful because you got to use it to take height, and while you go up vertically, you get to fall down invisible, allowing you to either hack people on the way down or completely disappear from their line of sight, allowing you to get out. And then number 3, I realized that hacking doesn't increase your damage anymore, so it's actually worth less value in a duel as opposed to before, where you pretty much always started every engagement with a hack. Now, honestly, I was not playing well at all, but I was having a lot of freaking fun on the hero. Fuck. Did I hit him? Let's go! I hit him! Now, after constantly trying to limit test, fumbling over my keybinds, and failing a lot at first, I was finally able to pull off my first good play, at least initially. A nice 2-piece enabled by hitting a virus on a brig, following that up with my team into a pivot off the sound cue of 2 enemy DPS ultimates. Now, if the clip cut there, it would be pretty good, but what followed was kind of tragic. Poor tracking into a missed virus into an all-in. Regardless of my mechanical failures, I could have disengaged at any time and lived, and then just came back in and ulted, but I got far too greedy, a very common theme you'll see throughout a lot of these early games. Now, after losing, I took a moment to reflect. Mechanically, playing terrible. Mispressing a lot of buttons, not consistently hitting my virus, and most importantly, not disengaging when I had clear reason to. So we shrug off the L and jump right into game 2. Now, the next game was honestly a lot more of the same. While I did manage to get some value, I quickly realized that connecting with virus is something that should decide how you take engagements. While I definitely need to be hitting them more, and as a projectile DPS main for most of my history, I should be hitting them more, it's more important to change up how I play whether I hit them or don't, and oftentimes in certain duels, if you miss the virus, it's actually correct to just disengage and then reset and then try again in a little while.
Discord.
God damn it! I suck! I can't hit that stupid ability! Now, frustrated with myself and my own play, I decided to use everything I learned and walk into this next fight and pop off. You see this Ana is standing still, so I used the virus plus decent tracking to instantly kill her. Then, instead of fighting for more, I quickly teleport back out of line of sight to go invisible, and because of this, I just can't be chased. And basically, every time you get an opportunity to secure value and then teleport out of line of sight, you're gonna get out of that fight for free. And because when I'm invisible, I run fast and my cooldowns come back very fast, just dipping out for a second allows me to come right back into the fight. And once I pivot back in, I see the Illari out of position with low cooldowns, and I get to teleport right to her, isolate the duel, and kill her easily. And then the rest is simple cleanup. Finally, we're cooking something on this hero. Now, very similar to how traditional Sombra played, I can push up here and just watch, looking to see if anyone routes separately from their team or perhaps gets too far behind so I can isolate them and potentially kill them. Thankfully, by being patient, I see the solo off-angling Bastion, and I realize as long as I do hit my virus before I start shooting, the combination of the damage over time and my gun makes me more lethal than before on squishies, and I quickly delete him. After this initial pick, the fight is cleaned up and we end up coming back and winning the entire round. Now, in the next round, I took a note that as long as I'm on an off angle, I can still easily poke from range because my gun actually does damage from range, and then I can pivot based on any weakness or opportunity. For example, I see this enemy Sombra go in, and I can easily teleport after her, chase her, and kill her. And I honestly learned a ton of tips for the mirror because I do get dominated by a Sombra later on, but I will share those then. Now, I realize how I can constantly jump from one off angle to another off angle, from one high ground to the next. I realize I can threaten damage and an aggressive pivot, fish for potential virus hits, and run away all on a dime while constantly applying pressure. It was still rough, but I was slowly getting more comfortable with ways to play the character and get value and not either pop off or just feed, and there'd be no in between. After this initial pop-off, which was satisfying, this next engagement to close out the game shows a combination of everything that Sombra can do that is pretty unique to her. First off, I hack the ball and my team and I get to focus him down and kill him. Then after hacking the mini for dual insurance, I get to take a solo engagement with the Hanzo and win it. Then afterwards, I get to kill the Ana by hitting my virus on her as well. Then hacking Illari while she's ulting, and then killing her with the assist of my team. The pop-off potential is definitely there for Sombra when you could intermingle all these different abilities together to form something that is really freaking sick. Now we finally get some confidence, a nice pop-off where we played very well, and we walk into the next game, excited to play Sombra, but of course, Overwatch had something else in store. Oh, what? Fuck, dude, this 1v1 is so hard. He's getting pocketed! Fuck, man. God, it's so hard. It's literally so hard. Park at a DPS. Oh. I got a reality check. If there was any game in the 10 that I just straight up threw, this was the one. I would constantly lose duels to Soldier 76. Hit scans caused me massive trouble, and even with me hitting my viruses, I could never win a fight versus a pocketed DPS. I thought if I just mechanically played better, I could force a fight win with them, just like I do with Genji, but with slightly less burst and the inability to protect myself in the same way with Deflect, I was just a smidge outclassed. I realized that I probably should have just played slower and applied pressure and dueled a lot less, and I needed to live at all costs instead of trying to force an engagement and dying over and over. That being said, I think against some comps, you need a coordinated dive to help you, or else you're forced to just never engage and poke, which is a lot worse than other characters that are better at poking, or you just engage like I do and then die to support Peel 90% of the time. Now we enter game 4. Going to this next map, I didn't get discouraged, and I wanted to be more patient and take what I learned and applied it to this next game. I decided to venture out more using my stealth and just to wait for more opportunities. People out of position, low HP, or just not paying attention. Like note right here, I see the Torb not paying attention, so I pop out of stealth, virus, and burst him. And then instead of taking the engagement with Illari directly, I just distract her. I don't face her directly, and especially for heroes with single fire abilities, you can easily jiggle corners like this to make them waste their shots, but you do it so tightly that it makes it nearly impossible for them to actually hit you. The trick here was my goal was not to fight her at all. It was just to distract her, making her waste all of her time not healing her team and trying to deal with me, while at the same time I allow my cooldowns to come back. After stalling her time for a while, I just teleport out and reset, and not being greedy here pays off huge. I learned my lesson from the previous game. A simple hack into a teleport follow-up, we take that first point with ease, and I feel nice about this because I feel like I broke open this point for my team, getting the initial pick, distracting the enemy support, and then helping my team clean up. Now, this next engagement was super scrappy and not perfectly executed, but it shows you the fluidity of what you can do on Sombra if you are quick on your feet. EMP kills Lifeweaver, and I don't greed and just completely leave. Then I get healed and re-wrap around, and once I re-engage Soldier, I miss the virus, and I just leave straight out. Lesson learned, don't hit the virus, don't take the duel. Then during my flank, I get jumped on by a Torb, and quickly pivot away from that, get healed, wrap, and then I follow up on my team's Sigma ult with a virus on Soldier that gets him killed. Then, with some momentum on my side, I cut across on the bus roof and use it to dodge the Torb turret line of sight while simultaneously kill the Mercy. Then, from up on this vantage point, I hack and cancel enemy Sigma ult, and almost all of this was done reactively and not strategically. You can be really fluid on the battlefield with new Sombra and pivot from one situation to the next on a dime. And really, even though I wasn't playing particularly great, I was loving how Sombra was feeling. Someone asked me a question about how I felt about the rework up to this point, and this is how I felt. What do you think of the Sombra rework? I think that more than anything, she's more fun. To me, that's more important than everything else. More important than power level. She's more fun to play. She has more counterplay. There are cooler things you can do while you're playing her. So like the power of her, they can change that. You can tweak numbers and stuff, but as far as like the engagement and the fun, this is way better than like I'm gonna pop out, I'm gonna farm 20% ult, and then I'm gonna go back, and then I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna farm 20% ult and then go back, and it's just so fucking boring. Now it's way better. Now we move on to game 5, Route 66. And Route 66 again, I take what I learned on the first map and just do it better. After we get collectively rolled a bit on first, in this next engagement, I show off Sombra's mid-fight flexibility and dueling capabilities. Specifically, this duel on Sojourn that I won felt really nice. Not only was I getting better at teleporting and using that to help me in the middle of a fight, but I was getting much more consistent at hitting my viruses and comfortable with using my kit fluidly. I also started teleporting and applying pressure from one high ground to the next, and I felt like I could just control space against certain types of characters really easily. In addition to that, I started really winning my 1v1s consistently, and this Genji was a testament to it. The thing I started really loving most about Sombra is while she was a very game sense heavy hero because you would watch, wait, and find weaknesses in the enemy team's positions, she also has incredibly high mechanical requirements in multiple ways. Notice how much of the watch and wait playstyle of old Sombra is still intact, just like how I waited and isolated the Sojourn, but unlike old Sombra, I was very aggressive and direct, where I get to instantly teleport over to the Sojourn and secure that advantage for my team by killing her very quickly. Now, moving on to attack, I want to take notice this first engagement. Notice how I first teleport just to set up, just to stay invisible and be ready to follow up on anything that happens, whether it's at a position, someone low, or someone not paying attention. Now up here, I start applying a little bit of pressure, but I don't commit to anything because I want to make sure that I don't die. But because of the longer engagement, I do farm EMP, and I can leverage that to help my team win. After countering the enemy ultimate with my own, I want to point out this really sick play that I was proud of. Teleporting up high, falling down, and hacking the enemy Lucio, and then hitting him with the virus to burst the Lucio while he had beat. That is an insane play, and I really love that that's possible on this character. My god, this character is fucking nuts. Now, after rolling through second, I want to show you this play that shows off the power of Sombra and how you can really dominate her like solo carry in your games. I wait and see the moment that the team is not paying attention to the Ana, and then I EMP plus virus her that insta kills her, and then I can just teleport out to the high ground. After that opening, it was just clean up from there and we win the freaking game. I ended 33-9 and had a nice play of the game on top of it. I was really feeling good. This was the first game that I felt the potential fully on Sombra, and I also feel like I actually executed well in this game. So brimming with confidence and being really excited to play another game, I walk into game 6, and then, yeah, you know what happened. Fuck. No! Motherfucker, dude. I'm getting sauced on by this bath.
Soldier one.
Oh. Fuck. Now, I realized that there are some key weaknesses to Sombra that I just didn't realize before. First off is just support peel in general, and it's really hard to get value on Sombra by yourself when no one on the enemy team is isolated. In other games, there was always some person that was on an off angle by themselves or some weakness that I could capitalize on, but against some teams like this one, everyone played pretty close together and there was no clear opening for me to take advantage of, and I felt like I just sat there and did nothing. In addition to that, hit scans and one-shot heroes like Hanzo were very frustrating to deal with. Not only could Hanzo just one-shot you out of nowhere, but hit scans could just do burst damage to you when you're doing something completely across the map to someone else, and it made it so they could threaten you really easily and you could just die in the middle of an engagement. Now, the third thing that I realized was something that I was surprised by. Tracers are annoying to deal with. Tracer is a super disadvantaged matchup. I think you could definitely play around it, and something that I didn't do was secure enough health packs, which I'll talk about more later. But honestly, Tracer being able to just chase you around and punish you, and your biggest amount of burst damage is Virus, but it does damage over time, means that it's really just hard to kill a Tracer or ever win this matchup. And if you just try to teleport away, a Tracer could double blink and catch up to you and kill you with ease. On top of that, the support peel plus hit scans was really rough, and it felt very similar to the Coliseo game, and if I was in a coordinated dive, then perhaps I could have broken through, but without a coordinated dive, and with me being the only diver, I just fed and fed and fed. Sombra, in a lot of ways, is actually not a very flexible hero. I really do think that how strong she is in power level is directly tied to the meta that you are in, and I started to get a grasp on the situations that Sombra was good and weak in, and I was really starting to uncover what this rework truly did for her. Now moving on to game 7. Nothing more emphasizes my point than this game when I had the exact opposite of the last game, with the GOAT himself, Doomfist Uravan. Because I had a dive tank diving with me and a good one at that, the engagements felt so freaking clean. Kiriko backlines that felt impossible to jump before, all of a sudden, one of us would bait the cooldowns and the other one of us would just finish off the target, or our engagements would be so fast that the enemy couldn't properly use their cooldowns at all. I also felt like Flashpoint is the perfect map for Sombra because on Flashpoint mobility is king and I was freaking loving it. I was legit having a ton of fun, especially in moments like this. Hey. Yeah, fuck off. Something else I realized is that good Sombra play heavily punishes enemy positional mistakes, routing mistakes, and slow healing based peels. I believe that in low ranks, a good Sombra could just dominate a lobby, and she is probably one of the strongest Smurf heroes in the game now. Also, as a general rule, keep in mind that any aggressive engagement should have an easy teleport out of LOS in mind before you start shooting, because if you can teleport out of LOS of the enemy team, it's a free life because once you go invisible, they can't possibly know where you are, and you're always gonna get out for free. On top of this, I was becoming more patient and slowing down my greed bit by bit and becoming a better Sombra player overall. Now we move on to game number 8. Thankfully, we get another full dive on Koth, but a different part about this is I had active communication. Not only did I communicate a lot, but my team communicated as well. While the last game felt really great, this game really showed off the potential of Sombra in a coordinated setting. First, I teleport to the high ground to get me out of the effective range of Reaper and Rhine and get a vantage point to potentially set up a dive. I finish off the Ana with my Genji, hack and focus on Lucio, and the rest is simply cleanup. One of the big comparisons that you're going to get a lot is between new Sombra and Tracer, and I felt really in this match in particular, I could abuse height in a way that Tracer just could not in my position because she doesn't have any way to quickly take verticality. In addition to that, with the coordination and communication, I had some really cool engagements just like this. We can cut her out.
Yeah,
Let's go, let's go, let's go. Hit. One. Dead. That guy kills everybody. So you see how like the engagements with Sombra are way more direct. Like I'm not poking and then leaving. I'm like going in, like committing in. which is like really cool. It's just way more fun. Now, even though that first map went really well, the second point was harder to dive. They were playing Bastion, Moira, Cass, and University is not as easy to abuse high ground, nor is it as good for dive in the first place, so we just couldn't get anything done. That being said, on this third map, I got to really abuse the high ground. Notice my patience, my kills into retreating into top middle. This was a crazy strong interaction, and I do think that certain high ground maps are absolutely abusable on Sombra. All coming together, I felt the power of Sombra in dive, and specifically on high ground centric maps. I really started to like Sombra as a hero. No longer do you permanently hack tanks and just farm them for EMP. No longer do you just poke and leave. It was much more engaging and honestly healthier for the game. Now moving on to number 9. And this was another game that was super freaking hard. I played non-dive into Brig, Lifeweaver backline, and it felt freaking impossible to get anything done. In addition to that, the enemy Sombra was solo duo killing my Ana and Zen, and I felt like I was just fighting for my life. Now, eventually we did go dive-ish, but our dives were just not coordinated like they were in the previous game, and they often barely didn't do enough to snowball. Also, I got mega diffed by this enemy Sombra. This was the first good Sombra I went up against, but most importantly, there was something that I've been neglecting these entire 9 games that came back to haunt me severely in this matchup. Frickin' health packs. I never made it a priority to hack health packs, and that was revealed to be a major mistake. It felt like every health pack on the map was claimed by the enemy Sombra, and I never put value or effort into doing it, and I was getting thoroughly punished for that over and over. I actually think hacking health packs is more important now, especially in situations like this, because with old Sombra, you wouldn't run dynamically to many health packs. Typically, you would only need to hack or use one that was pretty outside of the fight, so it wasn't even that important for you to hack it. But with new Sombra, the more packs that you have that are hacked around the fight, the easier it is for you to just quickly pivot to one of them and then continue the fight, and it was also one of the reasons that I could never run away from the Sombra or chase her at all. Dude, that's crazy that that's hacked. God damn it, man. I need to hack it first. On top of that, the enemy Sombra was really patient and ready for me to pivot to anything aggressively. Oftentimes, I would teleport on their Widow that I thought was isolated, only for the enemy Sombra to teleport right on top of me and help confirm the kill on me. Combine this with the undiveable Lifeweaver Brig support duo, and I just flat out got diffed and clapped. This was the first game I think I could have won with a simple Hanzo swap, and also a game that made me believe that one-tricking Sombra was probably suboptimal compared to some other characters. Now walking to this next game, we're sitting at 4 and 5, and we get dropped into a high elo GM2 lobby with Muma and Lugmino on my team. Now honestly, win or lose here, I was having a lot of freaking fun, man. My montage clip. Overall, this game went well. I think I got carried a little bit. It's gonna drop down an EMP. Are we ready? Let's go.
I was ready.
Fuck. But I did my part, and I got to chill and hang out with chat, and we won. We went 5 and 5, and I ranked GM2. It was a perfect freaking 50%, 5 games won and 5 games lost. Now granted, that's actually pretty good considering the first half of this challenge, I was breaking off the rust from taking an entire season off of playing, and I was really awkward at the hero, and even in the latter half, I was still occasionally mispressing buttons, so I do expect to get better from here if I continue to play Sombra. Now when it's all said and done, was this a good rework? How strong is Sombra, and is she more or less healthy for the game? Now, to answer the question, is this a good rework? 100% yes. This is more fun to play, easier to punish, and more fun to play against. This is literally a golden standard for a rework in my personal opinion. And I'm not talking about power level here, because power level can change, but the change in her playstyle, the change in how she plays, the change in her abilities, it all flows well, and it makes sense on the character. No longer are you sitting in Viz, hacking tanks, farming EMP, and dipping out, and doing that over and over again. No longer are you incentivized to just constantly hack things. There are times when hack is good, but a lot of the time, hack is not the proper way to take a duel, and virus plus just shooting at them is far better. Basically, they removed hack from being something that was needed in every engagement on Sombra to something that was useful in some situations, but not optimal in others. They also got rid of the really boring fishing playstyle where you're just going out and farming EMP that I absolutely despise on the character and is super unfun to play against and not really that fun to play, if I'm being honest. Basically, I love this freaking rework and it makes me excited to see what's in store for Hog around the corner. Next up, how good is Sombra? And honestly, Sombra is strong, make no mistake, but it does depend on the context. Hit scans and pocketed DPS felt really rough, but I do believe a hyper-coordinated dive could break through that with ease, but you're not going to get that likely in ranked. I also think that Sombra really starts to shine in a dive-specific meta, but it also seems like she could be worse than just Tracer in multiple ways. I would imagine that maybe it's her or Genji played with the Tracer, but I do think that on some high ground maps like Nubani, she could abuse the fact that she could go directly to the high ground in a way that Tracer could not, and if you ran something like Winston, Genji, Sombra, you could go very direct vertical, and that is super strong, so maybe I'm wrong, and Tracer is the one that gets pushed out. The last up, is she healthy for the game? And I do think that when you give a character perma invis and you allow her to hack and cancel things, you're playing with fire as far as health of a game, but she is definitely much more healthy than before by a mile. She's easier to counter, better gameplay and interactions overall. You can win a 1v1 with her, but she could also clutch up, and I really do think that she is so much more healthy for the game. This is a fantastic rework overall, and I actually really love what Blizzard did here. That being said, I want to pass the question off to you. How do you feel about rework Sombra? Do you like or dislike her? How strong do you think she is? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the content, do me a solid and like and subscribe. We have some absolute bangers coming just around the corner, so make sure you stay tuned till then. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.